Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Russian Fishing 4. In our last episode, we just kind of went through the map and showed how, there's all these different kinds of buildings, and we talked about what buildings are common on most maps, and the campfire, and just some of the general stuff having to do with interacting with the map and the locations and the things you can do in those locations. Today we're going to talk about something a little more complicated, and that is the control panel. If we hit escape, we go to the control panel, and there's a lot of stuff here, just a crap load of stuff, and just couldn't really even get started on it in the previous video because it's gonna take some time. So first thing, you'll note your player icon, which shows the country you're from. There will be your player name as well as your level and anything special you've got going on there. See whether or not you have a premium membership, how much silver you have, how much gold you have. There is a quick help. You click that, and it's the same thing you get when you hit F1 in-game. We have our settings where we can control how our rod behaves and whether we want tool tips and messages and that kind of stuff. We can adjust the type of stuff we got going on in chat messages, whether you want to see everything that's going on or just important fish maybe or whatever, player messages. Audio, where we can control the general volume, music, interface, background effects. Video with all its wonderful stuff. I've got everything set to ultra because it's gorgeous. And then our actual controls themselves, where we can change hotkeys that if we're uncomfortable with them. So for instance, I don't like a particular key. Well, I can probably find it here and swap it. So that's that general stuff. Then we have, of course, quit, which allows us to leave the game. Here we have the sky and weather information that you'll have in the top right corner when you are in the map. Here where it shows the picture of what lake you are currently at, that is what you click in order to travel to other lakes. Here you can see that at the beginning of the game we have Mosquito Lake and Winding Rivulet unlocked, but that old berg is still unlocked, and if we click it, it'll show us that we have to be level 12 before we can access this map. Belaya River, also level 12, Quarry 16, Bear Lake 18, and so on. Mosquito Lake is open and it's free of charge to travel there. Same way with Winding Rivulet, they're considered the starter maps, whereas Old Berg, you can see once we have access to it, it costs us 7.9 silver anytime we want to travel there. Alright? We can buy unlimited access for 2.9 gold. Now 2.9 gold is 290 gold, or 290 silver, so you can see that it's actually much cheaper to pay with gold than it is to pay with silver. However, gold costs real world monies. Then we start dealing with some of the more in-depth stuff. We got our messages, that's where you'll check PMs. We have our inventory, which of course we can access with I at any time that we're on the map. Our fish keeper, which we can access with C as in cat, anytime that we're on the map. But then we come to our skills. Skills are interesting because they're divided up into categories, and they help us with all the different things that really do play a major role in real life fishing. So first we have types of fishing: float fishing, spin fishing, and bottom fishing. Then we have the talent to harvest different kind of baits from the environment. If you've been fishing, every one of you have rolled over a log to look for a grub or dug in the ground to come up with some red worms. Cooking, that's where we learn and unlock recipes for cooking simple foods all the way up into the most complex dishes, and barbecuing and smoking fish and all that kind of stuff. Then we have ground bait making, because that's a very, very important part of European style fishing. They make bait balls, which they throw in the water to act as an attractant, get the fish in and feeding on the bait balls, and then they will bait with balls of bait, including putting bait inside a little cage, which a feeder cage that they attach and cast out there, so the feeder cage dispels the smell and the good stuff into the water and draws the fish in, and one of those fish that's eating will hopefully eventually take your bait and you'll get a catch. And then we have lure making, which to me is the funnest part of this game. Starting out, we can make the Novgorod spoon and the Moscow spoon. To do those, you're going to need the molds, you're going to need tin, you're going to need some wire, you're going to need hooks. It can be a little pricey, but it's very satisfying to take a lure you made yourself, put it on, and catch a big old fish. It's awesome. We eventually unlock foam rubber fish and different spoons, lots of spoons, spinner baits and wobblers and crankbaits and minnows and just everything you can imagine, up to walkers, poppers, and jerk baits. And you'll see that each of these is locked or unlocked, and they unlock at specific amounts of experience. So at 10% lure making skill, I unlock the ability to make foam rubber fish. At 20%, Volga spoon. See? And it's the same way with all the skills. In float fishing, we start out fishing with a telescopic rod and using a rig with a fixed line. We unlock the ability to use spinning reels and then a luminous float and then bolognese rods and so on. But you'll notice that there are these sections within the wheels. Well, when we level, we get a point, and we can assign that point to any one of these skills in order to improve this skill. So here, using a spinning reel, I've applied all 5 points that I've gotten so far and put them into this. And that's increasing my casting distance, my accuracy, and all of that. First by 5%, then 10, 15, 20, 25%. So it really does help with your casting and your accuracy in catching fish. It's the same kind of stuff for spin fishing, unlocking the ability to use different kinds of rigs and equipment and setups. And some things overlap. So for instance, using a spinning reel, you'll see that's filled to 5, just like it was here in float fishing, and that's because it's universal across those categories. Bottom fishing, again, here it is, using a spinning reel. So investing your points is very, very good if you find the ones that overlap all the fishing categories and invest your points in it, because it's going to make your fishing overall better for all those categories of fishing. And I'm really looking forward to getting some more time in on the game. Harvesting baits, of course, you saw us dig worms and red worms, right, with our shovel. We can turn bread into wet bread bait. We can cut potatoes up into cubes. At 20%, we'll be able to make pearl barley porridge, which means we have to buy the pearl barley at the store, take it to a campfire, cook it on up to make the porridge, and then we can use that as bait. Oatmeal porridge, sweet dough, wheat grains. So these are all different craftable things, and we craft those foods at a cooking fire. Then we have making ground bait. And so first, just there's the general idea of being able to mix ground bait and use basic level components. At 15%, we're able to add in additional components, things that add flavor and smells and stuff like that. And so you can see, basically it unlocks the ability to add more and more components into a recipe. So by here, at 70% skill, you can put 7 or 8 different components together into a combination bait, which is really great stuff. Throw that in and attract the fish. And lure making we've already looked at. So that there, it talks about our skills. Crafting, the things that we've unlocked for crafting are available in this menu. So we talked about being able to make wet bread. Well, here's the recipe to make wet bread and potato cubes. All right, but you can see pearl barley is locked here. So this is just where we find all the recipes for all the different kinds of stuff that we can craft at various points in the game. Here's the Novgorod spoon and the Moscow spoon that I talked about we could make with our lure making ability. There are baits of all different sorts, ground baits of all different sorts, including your own recipes that you can create. Making different lures of all different sorts. I love it when we get up to the point where we're making stuff like the balsa minnow, making leaders, and of course making different food recipes. Right now, I've got very little that's available here because I haven't really invested in the food stuff at all. After our skills and crafting, we have our statistics. This will tell us about the biggest fish that we've caught, the number of days we've played in games, our experience, completed cafe orders, all that kind of stuff, and we can break it down, the different species we've managed to catch one of, and the number of fish that we've caught with different styles of fishing, and I mean, all that information is here with that. Then after that, we have challenges, and I have catch 3 types of fish, catch fish using 7 different lures, and somewhere in here, you can generally find the ones, and so you'll see they're divided into categories. Classic spinning. Well, classic spinning, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, 5, 6, 7, and when you complete all of that, you will get your challenge award here that shows that you've accomplished all of those things. We have our achievements that we have along the way. We have our awards, which I do not have any, but so you can see we can access all these things from the top rather than having to exit out to that main menu. But I'm exiting to the main menu to do this so that you understand from the icons. This is just making the feed bait recipes. We have competitions we can join. Some of them will be privately established competitions. Others and will be basically created by a player. And you put in a stake and join the competition. If you don't win, you don't get your stake back. If you do win, you get the whole stake. See, so it's very nice. Pretty classic stuff tournament-wise. Then we have records and ratings. These are the record fish caught in the different water bodies. So you can do individual regions. Let's see here, USA. These are the players from the United States and the largest fish that they have caught, right? We could go to Germany, and these are all the German players and the largest fish caught. We've got records for Mosquito Lake, because that's where we are currently, right? We can do absolute records, which is the worldwide, the game-wide records of the catch. Takes some time to load. Well, it sorts it all out. There we go. So these are the highest. This is the highest albino catfish ever. All right. Whereas this is the weekly highest. This week's biggest albino catfish caught. There are no albino catfish on Mosquito Lake, so there's nothing here for albino catfish. So you dig what I'm saying there. Fabulous inhabitants. No famous inhabitants. As we go along, you'll see it's when we get to Quarry Lake. All right. These are fish that were caught on this lake that are a unique fish. And this, of course, the name of the player who caught him. But just some ridiculously huge fish here. This burbot here, 16 kilogram burbot, 17 kilogram burbot. So that's what that's all about. And then, of course, we have the map of the lake we're currently on. It shows our location and our facing. And that's pretty much the size of it. We got a link to the Russian Fishing 4 website. We've got a user guide that's on their website and mail to contact technical support. So that's kind of an overview of all of this business here. It can be a little confusing because you're in the map and you're used to accessing stuff in the map with different keys, and escape, it's kind of like, oh, I'm leaving, so it can catch you a little off guard at times. So we've pretty much hit the majority of it. So let's just take a few moments and talk about a couple of points of order maybe for what you're doing. As a general rule of thumb, when you set up a fishing rod, the rod will have its overall weight. All right. So this rod can handle where's our information here? There it is. This rod has a load capacity of 4 kilograms. That's how much weight the rod can handle before that rod will have a catastrophic structural failure, i.e. break it, that shit, as we say in layman's terms. And it has a couple of other things that are important. So along with the amount of capacity that it can handle, it will also generally have what's called its test. And its test is the weight of lure or bait, the total combined terminal tackle, in other words, the tackle that's at the end of the terminus of your fishing line. So your bait, your hook, your lure, your weights, your float, your rig, any of that stuff that's at the end of your line, that's terminal tackle. And the test is the ideal weight range of terminal tackle to have all dangling off the end of your rod. So from 5 grams all the way up to 35 grams. Well, what happens if you are under that 5 grams? Well, you're not going to have the weight on the end of your line to be able to cast your rod effectively. There won't be enough weight to carry that line out there. If there's too much weight on the end of it, you can overflex your rod and break your rod when you go to make your cast. Okay, so staying within that test limit is very important. And remember that the test is the combination of everything you have as terminal tackle on a rod. So not just the lure, not just the hook and bait, but everything. The weight of your float, the weight of your sinkers, the weight of the leader, the weight of your hook or lure, the weight of your bait, the weight of your feeder cage, all of that stuff all added up together. Okay? When it comes to things like action and stiffness and power and all of that, if you want a good explanation of what all these things mean along with illustrations and stuff, in the same playlist where you will find this video you're watching now, I have 2 older videos that I did that talk all about these factors of rod action and stiffness and its mass and its load capacity and just all of that stuff. And then there's a second video that talks about creating a balanced setup, what you should do with your rod in terms of your combination of rod, reel, line, and other tackle to ensure that you aren't breaking your rod or reel, and that if you have a line break, that you lose your bait instead of losing an entire 500 feet of line, that kind of thing. So those you can certainly check out here in the playlist that this is in. But we're at about 17 minutes, and I think I'm going to call it good. I just wanted to come in and just, do an overview on this. Once again, I'll remind you, I for inventory, B for bait, and when you bring out your bait, the one that is locked is the one that's on the end of your line, and U for your storage units. These are your hotkeys, and you just drag whatever you want over there into the slot, and it'll swap it out, and the one that's in your hand will have the icon. Alright, so I think with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Blah, blah, blah. YouTube algorithm, blah, blah. You know what to do. I will see you in the next one, and until then, remember, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly.